Good evening. I'm going to call to order this meeting of the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners and welcome you all. We're happy to have you here tonight. We're going to be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Police Chief John Slaughter.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our invocation tonight from the Wendell Council of Churches, we're going to hear from Representative Gaynell Gull from the Wendell Christian Church. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you. Acknowledging that there are diversity of beliefs in our community, state, and nation, I invite you to pray in your faith and tradition as I pray in mine. Let us pray. I pray tonight for our government leaders, state, local, national. May their eyes be open to see, their ears be open to listen, and their mouths be open to speak the truth. May we all be patient, kind, and forgiving in our daily lives, and may we all pray for peace and understanding for all those who our paths cross. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We have no one signed up for public comment tonight, but just as a quick reminder, you can participate in public comment by signing up for public comment at the door on the night of the meeting, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Or you can submit written statements via email to the town clerk by the Friday before the board meeting by 5. Please include your name and address for the record, and it will be read in to the record for the length of 3 minutes. Are there any adjustments to the consent agenda? A motion to approve?
So moved.
I don't know why I said any of those. All right, we have a motion to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll move into Section 4, recognitions, reports, and presentations. Item 4A is a proclamation of June 2024 as LGBT plus Pride Month. Whereas LGBTP plus Pride Month is celebrated nationwide in June each year, and whereas this month was chosen to commemorate and remember the victims of anti-LGBT plus violence and recognize ongoing efforts to end gender-based discrimination, and whereas despite great progress, LGBT plus Americans still face discrimination simply for who they are, and whereas the town of Wendell stands with the LGBT plus community in the struggle to ensure equal treatment for all, and whereas Executive Order Number 24, North Carolina Reg 958-962, which was issued on October 18, 2017, established policies prohibiting discrimination, harassment, and retaliation on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity or expression in state government, state services, and state contacts under the jurisdiction of the Office of the Governor. And whereas Executive Order Number 24 directed the Secretary of the Department of Administration to create the Commission on Inclusion to identify additional policies and measures that promote diversity and inclusion. And whereas the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution to enact an ordinance prohibiting discrimination in public accommodations and employment on February 14, 2022. And whereas the Town of Wendell strives to make our community a place where all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, are treated equally, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim the month of June 2024 as LGBT plus Pride Month and commend its observance to all citizens. Duly proclaimed this the 10th day of June 2024, and it's signed by me. So, all right. We'll move into Section 5, our public hearings. The first, item 5A, is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 21.4 acres from Wake County Residential 30 to Town of Wendell Neighborhood Center Conditional District to create Old Tarboro Residential at 617 Old Tarboro Road. Mr. Coates.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor and board members. This item is back before you to hold a public hearing on the development of the 127-unit townhome community. I'll go over some of the adjustments since their last public hearing. This project originally, public hearing was held February 27th, 2023, and it was continued to June 2023, where the applicant provided a concept plan and went back through TRC review. March 11th, 2024, there was a public hearing held on what, at the plan at that time, had 173 townhomes, 76 apartment units. The board voted unanimously to conduct a new public hearing after providing feedback for today's meeting. The plan has been adjusted to just show the townhomes and the development south of Old Tarboro. North of Old Tarboro is part of the parcel, but not part of the development plan any longer. The applicant is still proposing neighborhood center zoning, which has been consistent throughout the project. Overall site plan, you can see all the units are south of Old Tarboro. They're townhome units that all the amenities are still on the south side. They're also still dedicating right-of-way for the rerouting of Eagle Rock Road. Proposed zoning conditions, I won't go through each one because they're all pretty much the same as last time, except they removed any reference to the multifamily and apartments. So the conditions are cleaned up for the development that you see before you today. Buffers, the applicant is providing all the required buffers along the boundaries with neighbors, and then also adding supplemental screening along different property lines as well. TIA still stands for the project. It requires a 50-foot left turn lane into the site from southbound Eagle Rock Road. Transportation, they are reserving roughly almost 13,000 square feet for the town is currently in design for the rerouting of Eagle Rock Road, and that potential area for right-of-way may be needed for that project. So they reserved it. There's no development planned in that. All their roads do meet our standards. They are providing some off-street parking at the amenity center, the mail kiosk, and there's some at the dog park as well. They are providing sidewalks, multi-use paths as required. Comp plan, this area just south of Old Tarboro is all classified as medium residential living 2, which townhomes and the density they're providing meet the requirements and are consistent with the comprehensive plan blueprint Wendell 2030. Does provide for neighborhood and housing, diversity housing appeal to different groups, age, income, lifestyle preference, and family situations. Connectivity, they are reserving that potential right-of-way needed for the Eagle Rock extension, as well as doing road improvements along Eagle Rock and Old Tarboro. Planning Board back in 2022 did vote 6-1 on a motion to recommend approval of this rezoning. Neighborhood meeting, the applicant did go back out and held a virtual meeting on May 29th with 3 people in attendance. The minutes from that meeting are included in your attachments. Staff comments, the proposed development is consistent with the Wendell Comprehensive Plan Blueprint Wendell 2030 and could be considered reasonable since it fulfills goals of the comp plan. Staff does recommend approval. The applicant is here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, open the public hearing. Are there any questions from the board so far? If not, we'll go right on to the applicant. Okay, go ahead.
You don't have to answer this now. The question comes around the cemeteries that's in the center and how it is to remain. I haven't seen where the cemetery is located, but I haven't seen the physical cemetery. If someone can just speak to how you intend to maintain that, and I'll give you the example that I'm looking for. I was riding my bike earlier. We've done a really good job, like at Stone Arbor, of gating around a cemetery, and it's certainly protected, and then they're doing a good job of maintaining it. However, there were trees that were inside the fence area that have now fallen, and I don't know how you get the tree out, right? So I guess understanding how not only we're going to protect it during the construction time period, but how it will be protected moving forward.
I'll let Matt Gross, the engineer, answer that question.
We'll go ahead and hear from the various people of the applicant.
Hey, good evening. I'm Matt Gross, Kimley Horn, landscape architect, 421 Fayetteville Street, downtown Raleigh. So the cemetery is located within some open space, which will be maintained by the HOA. Currently today, you can see on the plan, there's two existing trees that if we were to touch those at all, obviously we would be creating disturbance to those cemeteries. So we're not touching them. We've intentionally designed around that area in order to leave it unaffected. One thing that we will be doing, one of the questions in the past along this item was, how are we going to maintain accessibility to that cemetery for any family members who would like to visit? We do have a mail kiosk in that area, and there will be sidewalks and some more improved open space right alongside it without impacting those areas in order to allow people to visit when they would like to. And kind of adjacent to that would be maintenance of that area to ensure that it maintains its integrity.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm James Todd of Smith Anderson, the attorney on behalf of the applicant, Haley Development. I'm joined by Rich Thomas with the developer and also the engineering team from Kimley Horn. I think this project started back in June of 2022 was when I think we held the first neighborhood meeting. I suspect y'all are quite familiar with it. We won't belabor the presentation that Mr. Coates gave. So really just here to thank the town staff and the public officials that have worked with us throughout this process. It's gone through several iterations, most recently the March 11th meeting. Taking that feedback from the meeting, we've scaled it down. Development now proposed only south of Old Tarboro, 127 townhomes only, as you heard. We think that addresses some of the concerns of the Innovation District to the north of Old Tarboro. We hope that this is a project that y'all are as excited as we are about. We are available to answer any questions, but again, thank you for your cooperation through this process. We look forward to answering any questions you may have. Thank you.
Excuse me, did you say 127?
Yes, 127.
That was 173 townhomes and 76 apartments.
It was under the last version of the
Okay,
plan.
that's the last version.
Yes, sir.
Now you're
Yeah,
127.
so at the March 11th meeting, when we were still proposing development north of Old Tarboro, 173 multifamily, that's been scaled back, so just townhomes south of Old Tarboro Road.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to speak for or against the project? All right, anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move, I thought I was on the right page. I move we approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request and adopt the attached ordinance.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request and adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Item 5B is a public hearing on the zoning text amendment to the arterial and collector street plan in the UDO. Mr. Coates.
Yep, good evening, Mayor and board members again. This is the second public hearing of 4 tonight. This next one is staff-initiated zoning text amendment to the arterial and collector street plan, which is Appendix C in the town's Unified Development Ordinance, as commonly referred to as the UDO. Just a little background. In September 2015, the town adopted the arterial and collector street plan. The adoption of this plan provided standards for design and articulated the town's vision of future roadway connections. When the plan was created, staff and the consultants aimed to make future connections that made sense at the time. Many of those connections were shown as new facilities or new roadways. And then in 2019, due to some community feedback, there was some amendments to the plan that reduced the financial burden on developers seeking to build along those arterial and collector roads. At that time, though, the transportation plan map was not impacted. Some key factors when looking at roads and potential road projects are consider constructing the infrastructure are environmental and topographical challenges. Things change over time. Floodplain has been updated. Projects have either been purchased, let's say for open space, or communities get built and roadways get adjusted. several of the proposed roads in the transportation plan map would need to overcome some of these challenges. One of those proposed roads is between the old Battle Bridge and Lyles Dean. This segment's proposed to be a major collector, a 3-lane undivided within a 79-foot right-of-way. The Town of Wendell planning staff has submitted a text amendment to delete the major collector shown crossing Buffalo Creek between Old Battle Bridge and Lyles Dean from the transportation plan map, which is Appendix C. First, the road is not in the future Campo 2050 plan. You can see some environmental features. A lot of Buffalo Creek floodplain. It flows in that general area, impacting where a road could go. There's also flood-prone soils, and then the contours in trying to construct a road. And then I'll go over a few other factors that have changed since 2015 and 19. The intent of this road is to connect Old Battle Bridge to Lyles Dean and would run southeast parallel to Wendell Boulevard. This would require traversing the Buffalo Creek floodplain, 3 blue line streams, and would have to cross and impact the preserved Bailey Farm, which was recently, the development rights were purchased by Wake County. Wake County government, as I said, did purchase the development rights on that 125 acres of the 129-acre Bailey Farm. The land is preserved for farm use, open space, and wildlife habitat. Not being able to cross the Bailey Farm and the other environmental features make it very, very challenging to ever build this roadway in that location that was planned. Also, Blueprint Wendell does classify the Bailey Farm and some other parcels as low-density estate and classifies Buffalo Creek as the future Wendell Central Park. Land south of the Bailey Farm is now owned by Wake County in the town of Wendell and is classified as conservation and recreation for future use. Typically, if property cannot be developed, it's hard to pay for that infrastructure for a roadway. So in this case, that Buffalo Creek and using that corridor for recreation, greenways, and open space is a key priority for the town. Both Old Battle Bridge and Lyles Dean would be 3-lane minor thoroughfare roadways at build-out. Both roadways are currently maintained by NCDOT and could be signalized in the future. That's important because DOT does recommend roughly 1,200 feet between signalized intersections. So having a collector with 3 lanes of traffic hit those intersections well within 1,200 feet of Wendell Boulevard intersections make it very challenging to ever get signalization, which actually could cause additional traffic issues. Minor thoroughfares are intended to connect smaller activity centers. The activity center on Old Battle Bridge is there, but there's not a plan to be a small activity center with the Bailey Farm being preserved by Wake County and other lands being owned by Wake County for open space. There are no large residential areas to help with these minor collectors and thoroughfares. You can see there's the existing map, the red line in the northeast, and then the map with it removed. As part of our comp plan, we are constantly encouraging to update our plans and regulations as we work for the future of the town. In this way, updating the transportation plan to remove that road is consistent with the comp plan as we look at situations. At the May 20th, 2024 Planning Board, the Planning Board voted 5-0 for the motion to recommend approval of the text amendment, and staff is recommending approval as well. I can field any questions that you have on the zoning text amendment.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board? None? All right. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? All right, last chance for questions from the board. All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move we adopt the amendment to the arterial street collector plan, Appendix C in the UDO.
All right, so we have a motion to adopt the amendment to the arterial and collector street plan, Appendix C in the UDO. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right, thank y'all. All right, item 5C is a public hearing to annex and rezone approximately 16.51 acres from neighborhood center to corridor mixed-use conditional district to create a flex space complex on Old Battle Bridge Road. Mr. Coates again.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. This public hearing is for a mixed-use project. The applications are for annexation and rezoning of the roughly 16 and a half acres. The intent is to create a multi-tenant commercial business park with flexible uses within 2 buildings totaling roughly 82,000 square feet. I'll go over the details of it. The project on this map is in the light pink area. To the north is Hephzibah Baptist. To the northwest is SPC Mechanical's headquarters. To the west and southwest are Anderson Farm, which is a residential community, and to the east are properties with some single-family homes and some woodlands and forest as well. Overall site plan, the access would be off Old Battle Bridge with a median entrance back into the 2 buildings, which are total roughly 82,000 square feet. Parking would be in the perimeter and mostly shielded from what Old Battle Bridge Road or neighbors, and we'll go over some of the zoning conditions which enhance the buffers. Any truck access or loading docks would be kind of in the center with the buildings surrounding it, so not visible from much of anything. The site is really designed well to fit within that property. Majority of the site to the south is all floodplain and backs up to Buffalo Creek. The applicant does have a list of some zoning conditions. They're asking the following uses to be allowed without a special use permit: research and development, event venue outdoor, shooting range indoor, and then theater live performance outdoor. It's key to note on their site plan, the event venue outdoor, the theater live performance outdoor are not on the site plan. They would have to readjust the site plan to do those types of uses. The shooting range indoor, research and development certainly would occur inside the buildings as a permitted use instead of coming back before you for a special use permit. Buffers along the property line shared with the Askew property. 30-foot type B buffer provided along the south side of the property with 25 additional shrubs. The second 2.2 condition, plant 23 large evergreen trees in lieu of 18 required shrubs along the east side of the property. Trees to have full foliage to the base with a minimum planting height of 4 feet. Condition 2.3 is to provide a 25-foot type B buffer along the north side of the property and plant 16 additional shrubs. You'll see through these zoning conditions, they are enhancing the buffers, adding a variety of plants at different heights and leaf coverage. Condition 3, buffer along the shared property line with Hephzibah Baptist, provide a 20-foot type C buffer with 64 additional large evergreen trees to be planted with a minimum height of 4 feet. The buffers along the shared property line with the Lyles property. Along the northern 215-foot linear feet of shared property, a 20-foot type B buffer will be provided with 27 large evergreen trees planted in lieu of 36 required shrubs. The evergreen trees to have full foliage to the base with a minimum planted height of 4 feet. Condition 4.2, along the southern 545 linear feet of shared property line, a 20-foot type B buffer to be provided within the 115-foot wide undisturbed buffer. In addition, 36 large evergreen trees with full foliage to base and a minimum planted height of 4 feet will be planted adjacent to the parking lot. Condition 5, along the property line shared with the Jeffries property, a 20-foot type B will be provided along the interior 20 feet within a 200-foot wide undisturbed buffer. Existing plantings will be used to the maximum extent possible, but will be supplemented in this 20-foot area to meet the type B buffer requirements. The shrub layer will be planted. Condition 6, along the D.R. Horton property, Anderson Farm to the south and southwest, a 20-foot type B buffer will be provided within the 220-foot undisturbed buffer. Existing plantings will be used to the maximum extent possible, but will be supplemented in this 20-foot area to meet the type B buffer. And again, the shrub layer will be planted. Condition 7, maximum building setback to be increased from 100 feet to 250 feet for building 1 and from 100 to 500 feet for building 2. In this case, it isn't asked from the developer. Overall, it creates a much better visual buffer for anything along Old Battle Bridge where the buildings will be set back with attractive landscaping and entrance in the front. They are also asking 0.09 acre encroachment into the 500-year floodplain to be permitted for parking and utilities. That is allowed. It's very little disturbance into that 500-year area. Overall site plan, you can see the large buffers to the south that kind of surround the southern side of that property. There's floodplain, there's wetlands, there's a variety of environmental features that they're staying out of, and they will be planning the additional buffer as needed. Some building elevations for the buildings, for the mixed-use tenants. I won't go over the buffers again because the zoning conditions do a really good job of laying those out. The applicant has proposed conditions that have incorporated additional plantings and/or wider buffer widths than are required by the town. Roughly 6.25 acres of the site's in the floodplain, not eligible to have any built-upon conditions. Condition 8 would allow them to encroach 0.09 acres into that 500-year floodplain to be permitted for parking and utilities. Parking, because the uses can be flexible, this is kind of what's expected on the site, but they have room for a different mix, and so the parking is roughly right now estimated 45% will be used for manufacturing and storage, 25% for office and service, 10% retail, 10% entertainment recreation, 10% civic institutional. What will happen as tenants move into this building or are looking to locate in the building, they'll submit a commercial zoning compliance for the use, which will require a specific number of parking. Under that current breakdown, they would utilize 131 spaces. They're proposing 183 on the site. And so they have that flexibility. If more of the site becomes office, they have that additional parking. Staff will go through by tenant and verify what spaces are needed for what use. But they do have that flexibility designed into the site. UDO did require a TIA. We'll go over that next. The generated peak hour trip generation is 114 trips in the morning, 122 trips in the evening. TIA is requiring a 100-foot left turn lane from down Battle Bridge Road into the site. The applicant will be constructing full improvements along the property frontage along Old Battle Bridge. In the case of the transportation plan, we classify this road at build out as 79-foot right-of-way. In many places, it's already 90 feet that DOT had obtained years ago. So in this case, you'll see frontage improvements, and there is space for that turn lane. A small portion of the frontage will require additional right-of-way, but the majority, we will not need any additional right-of-way for the road improvements. Town plans, go over this. A project like this is exciting. It does hit a lot of goals for us when we look at water allocation policy, economic development strategic plan, and Blueprint Wendell 2030. All set priorities for the community related to tax base, job creation, and land use patterns. Implementing these policies and plans are directly related to the proposed conditional district rezoning. Water allocation policy has a goal of achieving a tax base of 60% residential, 40% commercial, industrial. Typically throughout our history as a town, we've had roughly an 80% residential, 20% commercial. This type of project could add 82,000 square feet of industrial flex retail office space. The Economic Development Strategic Plan does lay out their goals, which would be to identify future mixed-use business park locations suitable for attracting companies. It also encourages creating a site readiness matrix to help prepare sites for development, and then also create a program for site building identification and development to be prospect ready. Blueprint Wendell does classify this parcel as Activity Center 2, which allows for retail, office, and a variety of some residential uses, as well as like event space, small and medium-sized offices, medical offices, and other personal uses as well. Most of the uses listed in the place type could be potential tenants of the proposed flex space. The proposed buildings are 1-story. And as with any rezoning, any recommended change to the zoning map should be accompanied by a statement explaining how the change is or is not consistent. Staff feels the plan is consistent with Blueprint 2030, could be considered reasonable as it assists with the following goals. So centers of activity, supports development of key nodes, large and small, amend zoning to accommodate mixed use development in key nodes, and then economic development does diversify the local economy, increase employment opportunities, also create space, land, and buildings to meet a varied demand as well. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting February 6th. Meeting minutes are in your packet. TRC has completed their review, and staff, the plan is consistent with the comp plan, fulfills many goals laid out there in our economic development strategic plan, as well as Blueprint Wendell. The applicant is here, the applicant team, to answer any questions you may have. I can also field some as well.
All right, let's open the public hearing. Any questions from the board so far? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Brian, just a general question. When we have kind of these mixed-use projects come before us and we have these parking restrictions, is this something that's constantly regulated or just kind of monitored as applicants change or tenants change? It is?
Yeah, we typically, depending on the uses in the building, a zoning verification is required. And so as each tenant comes in, we will have a list of what's been approved for the site and how many parking spots are required for each use.
Okay.
That can vary based on, they could get a tenant that wants the entire building. They may get tenants that maybe there's 8 or 10 per each building. So we would keep track by zoning verification as they want to locate in the space to make sure there's enough parking to meet the needs.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else from the board?
Follow up on that. What happens if, I guess, same question, like, probably unlikely you do all retail, but if all retail is 3.3, you need 330 spaces. Obviously, they're only authorized 187, whatever it was on your chart there, 187, I believe. But, so, what do you do if you get jammed up? Do they?
They would have a couple different options. One, they could adjust the site plan to see if they can fit more. I think with their site, it's currently designed and really challenging to fit all retail. And the buildings really aren't designed to be 100% retail.
Yeah, office was like 3,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
that you get all office these days either. I'm just trying to figure out what happens to Commissioner Lutz's point. If you get to that point,
Yeah.
do they have an out? Do they have a solution?
I'll let the developer talk about that based on some of their other projects, but for us, we would not approve zoning verification letters for all retail because we would say there's not sufficient
Not
parking in the approved site plan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions right now? All right, let's hear from the applicant.
I'm Sharon Scroggin, landscape architect with Hager Smith Design in Raleigh. The balance of parking is a very good question, and it's also related to competing with other projects to make this an attractive space to choose. We are not seeing anywhere near that parking ratio on very successful projects in Garner. If that tenant comes along that has that really high ratio, then yes, we understand we have to bring the site back in. There's a little bit more room for parking in the front. We took a project in Garner, converted the service court to parking too, added trees, did everything we had to do. And if that tenant's, I like quoting Witt and Al, if the tenant has excellent credit, they jump way up on what we'll do for them to make sure they want to come to this building. And I also wanted to thank staff. That's a very thorough and encouraging report for us. So let me know if you have any other questions.
Okay. Is there any questions from the board for the applicant?
I'll just ask real quick if you want to address, what's the thought process on the proposed zoning conditions, essentially leaving it open-ended like that?
Is that related to the special use? It's more that sometimes a tenant comes that doesn't clearly fit a category. I think shooting range is obvious, but we talked about, as a birthday party company that has their equipment, is that going to have to come back through a special use? It might be a small tenant, it doesn't justify the effort. And I think research and development's obvious because, again, it would not be visible outside the building. We want any tenant that is acceptable for that zoning to be permitted with staff's review, but not a special use permit. Because you can't afford to bring a 2,000 square foot tenant through that process.
Would you have a 2,000 square foot tenant for an outdoor event venue or an outdoor theater live performance?
Well, the difference between indoor and outdoor is different in the code too, but we couldn't have a concert type tenant without coming back. That's a fair statement. It's
To them, not to us.
to the special
Town
use.
staff.
Right.
And that's the thought, that's what I'm getting at. Is that the thought process?
Yes,
Because you don't want to necessarily come back before the board?
correct. No public hearing process for something that's all inside the building.
Inside or outside? Because these say outdoor.
Yep. Brian explains the
Okay,
difference better than I do.
Let me go back to that slide a little. So the theater live performance, let's say there's a use that is the office and maybe some of the performance is inside, but let's say they want to have an outdoor stage. We would classify if the majority of the use is occurring outside, it may not be all inside. And so they wanted to make sure that if there was a tenant that needed indoor and outdoor, that it was not conflict for that type of use. The event venue outdoor, the event of, let's say they have a party, kids' birthday party event venue, and the majority of it's inside, we would classify that as an indoor use that happens to have an accessory use outside. But a full outdoor event venue, that means the majority of that use is outside and
I guess, I just want to make sure, like, Wendell Little Theater with a stage outside, so I get that. Red Hat Amphitheater, totally different.
yes, and because of the site plan that you see, if they, let's say, for example, would be remove a building to create a large event venue outside, that staff would say that's a major change and needs to come back before you.
Major, just for clarification, major requires coming back.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions from the board? Okay.
Just
Okay,
to
yeah.
clarify, once you all make a vote on the official site plan, that is what goes with a project. And the UDO does have criteria of when something needs to come back to you, and it is related to square footage, how a project is used, road connections and things like that. So it has criteria. It also has criteria where I, as the planning director, also can help signify if something is a change. And that signifies going back to the board. And so as we look at updating the UDO, that's something we can look at. What are those criteria? The advantage of a conditional district is you all get to see that finished site plan. And then if it does get adjusted, meeting any of those criteria, it goes back before you.
And I support that. I'd just like for us to say it out loud.
Yes.
For clarification.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. Any other questions from the board right now? Anything else from the applicant? Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak? evening. You have your name and address, and you got 5 minutes.
Oh, it won't take that long. Tyler Askew, 839 Industrial Drive. My uncle owns a little piece, that's Nelson Keith Askew, saw it, a little, small, about ½ acre he owns. We were just wondering about the turn lane and the right-of-way. Of course, the state has a right-of-way, you were saying, what, 90 feet? Is that correct? Well, that's pooled, you dropped it back to 75,
The majority of it's currently roughly 90.
and that's pooled center like 45, right?
I'd have to look at.
Should be.
It got adjusted when they did the bridge down at the bottom, so I can look, but there's a variety of widths.
I just want to see what you got on paper, just for that. I mean, you can get together after, it doesn't
It's
matter.
not gonna show you on this.
If it shows what you want to do. Like, 'cause that's a big thing, because you go from, if it's 90 feet from center, and they change for 45, we're just curious to see how that would affect his front, area, because it's a small property. We have a whole lot bigger property over here, but that's a tiny little piece right there, and it's gonna eat it up, which, not much we can do about it.
His
but-
right-of-way won't change.
But, I just want to see.
Tyler, you're worried about if there's a 90-foot off a center?
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, so it's, but I think that's what he's asking is,
The full roadway width is.
90.
The full right-of-way is 90
Right,
in
pools.
places and less than that. in others.
so it's gonna be
Same
something less
70.
than 50
Right.
from the center.
I was just curious what it was there. Have y'all done a study to see what it was for that last little bit before the bridge where he's at? Do you know what it is?
Did I hear?
You say it kind of varies down the road, right?
Well, one place it says it's 81, then 90, so it. I
It
don't get
varies.
exact
45 or less.
pieces of property. It just varies.
But
in
you can
there.
let us know on the front of that property though, right? Like when you get a little farther into it? Just what it is, just let me know.
Did I hear you say, Brian, that there's not going to be right-of-way acquisition required on that parcel?
There should not be, no.
I think that's what your question is,
It's
right,
already
Tyler?
Wide enough for all the improvements.
There's the right-of-way's there. There's not going to need to be more right-of-way. That's what he's saying.
On your property, there will not be any improvements in front of yours. No
It'll be
curb and
for-
gutter, no sidewalk, because they're only doing what their frontage requires
Right.
in the
so-
TIA.
and like the
There'll be no
entrance-
change
we have
there.
The entrance there. The bridge is where?
The bridge is down here.
So the bridge is a little farther down, entrance will be right past, kind of right past his driveway where we've got some renters at right now. Okay, so the turn lane would go, how long is the turn lane? So it would start before his drive and kind of,
Make the left into the side.
yeah, because there was so much going on in that picture, I couldn't really tell what you had going on. But yeah, if you don't mind, you got a card or anything, an email?
I can get you the
Yeah,
information.
and me and you would get together and you just show me what you got going on there, maybe a blown up view, if you got it. Just, I was just trying to get my bearings right, because it's hard to tell by that picture.
I
But yeah, I
understand.
mean, other than that, we're just trying to figure out what the right of way, I know it varies, but I know I heard 75 foot, and then it's kind of confusing trying to picture everything coming together there. But yeah, I'll get with you if you got a card or something, we'll get together. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, anything else from the board? All right, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam Mayor, I move we approve the rezoning request, annexation and rezoning request, and adopt the attached ordinance.
So we have a motion to approve the proposed annexation and rezoning request and to adopt the attached ordinance. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. All right. Moving to 5D. It's a public hearing to formally close rights-of-way known as the alleys located between East 4th Street and 5th Street between North Main and North Pine and North Main and North Cypress.
Good evening, Mayor and board members. This is the fourth of the 4 public hearings. We're asking you to hold the public hearing on the proposal to abandon the 2 unimproved alleys, one between East 4th and 5th Street, between Main and North Cypress, and also the unimproved alley between East 4th Street and 5th Street, between North Main and North Pine Street, provided that adjoining property owners agree to be described division of land from the abandoned alley as described in the ordinance. In the event that all property owners do not agree to the altered division of land, the alley shall remain open and retained as a public alley to ensure access to all properties. According to General Statute 160A-299, for a road or alley to be formally closed, the municipality's town board must first adopt a resolution, which you all did in the first May meeting. The resolution was published in the newspaper for 4 consecutive weeks, which we use the Wake Weekly, and notices were mailed to the adjoining property owners and posted in the alleys. The two alleys are no longer needed or maintained by the town. The property and the alleys would revert to the adjoining properties as proposed and become taxable private property. The motion does provide for two contingencies for the alley across from the dealership between Main and Cypress. The motion allows for the town to pursue the altered arrangement. However, if the property owners fail to agree, the town will abandon the right-of-way as provided for by statute, given an equal split of the alley property to adjoining owners. The attorney did bring up adjusting the language in the resolution, and I'll let him go over that, the exact language needed for the resolution, as we did not get that adjusted in time.
As the order is currently written, I just don't think it reflects the current arrangement. I think we would just submit it at a later time, and the board can take whatever action they want to tonight, and we'll submit a revised order in a timely manner.
So what do we need to do? Do we need to table this?
Do you want to vote on it or table it?
In talking prior to the meeting, the idea would be to hold the public hearing. You can make the motions to adopt as they're described in the motions, and subject to changing the order to reflect the signature, the process approved by the property owners. That way it doesn't have to come back to the board, but it recognizes that there are different potential order wording that basically authorize the mayor to sign the order after the signatures are obtained from the adjoining properties. So, normally when you have the alley, 50% goes here, 50% goes there. Behind Universal Chevrolet, you have the chamber and the bank. If you, those two property owners can sign a waiver to their rights of getting their half. What that means is that alley completely goes to the Universal Chevrolet side, which retains access behind the buildings for Universal Chevrolet. Mr. White and his partners do not want to lose access that the public alley currently affords. So the way that alley is written is it's only closed if the bank and the chamber sign off on their rights to their property. All right, so that's that part of that one. The other side of Main Street, you have the Universal Chevrolet properties and properties owned by Mr. White. And then you have two properties that are not. No business or property would lose access if that alley is closed, either by the property owner signing the right or by the traditional way set out in the statute. So there's a either or there. If we can get one or both signatures, that's preferred. But if we have to just go by the normal statutory 50-50, it's as much property as possible going to single ownership there, but the other two properties would get their 50%. The order is only written for one way. So the motion would have to reflect that the order needs to reflect the signatures obtained as provided for under law. Is that?
That's a very good summary.
All right, thank you.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Do you want to say anything? All right, we'll close the public hearing. What's the board's pleasure?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 1024 contingent on the following provisions for the respective alleys. 1 and 2, and I guess I'll let you read those back, and so I don't read them all to you, and then you read them all back.
I can just say 1 and 2.
Okay. The unimproved, yeah, 1 and 2 sounds wonderful. So I'd make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay. So we have a motion to adopt ordinance 1024 contingent on the on provisions 1 and 2. Is that adequate? Do we need to restate that more?
Why not push it out just a little bit more?
Okay. you want to read it, or you want me to read it?
Yeah, I got you. You just need this read?
I think that would help, just because
You're good. Unimproved alley between East 4th Street and 5th Street and between Main Street and North Cypress, providing that the adjoining property owners agree to the described division of land from the abandoned alley as described in the ordinance and in General Statute 160A 299C. In the event that property owners do not agree, the alley shall be abandoned consistent with General Statute 160A 299 without alteration or splitting of the alley equally to the adjoining properties. 2, the unimproved alley between East 4th Street, 5th Street, and North Main Street and North Pine Street, provided the adjoining property owners agree to the described division of land from the abandoned alley as described in the ordinance and in General Statute 160A 299C. In the event that property owners do not agree to the altered division of land in the ordinance, the alley shall remain open and retained as public alley to ensure all access to all properties.
Thank you. Do we need anything else to reflect your concern from earlier? Okay. All right, so we have a motion to adopt ordinance 1024 contingent on those following 2 provisions, and we won't go through them again. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. We have no administrative items this evening. So we'll move into our other business, update on board committees by town board members. And we have one volunteer, Wendell Volunteer Fire Department Board of Directors.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Fire Department Board met last week. June 18th, we will graduate 4 new recruits from the Wake County Fire Academy. With the passage of this most recent budget, all of your Wendell Fire Department stations will very shortly have 4 firemen at every station, which is a marked improvement over staffing levels in the past. The fire department continues to grow. And I believe that is all from the fire department, Madam Mayor.
All right, move into our commissioners' comments and stay with you, Commissioner Joyner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And wanted to just once again thank staff for all their hard work on the budget and the budget process that got us completed last week. I've had more engaging conversations with people in the past week who have heard about 1 or 2 projects that are in the budget or that have heard about something else that's going to be impacted by it. It's cool. I sent the mayor a video the other night. Hollybrook Park is getting close, and it's cool to see. It is never fun to sit here and vote on things. It is never an easy task when you're spending someone else's money, which is how I view it. And I think it's important that we follow through and we see the plans through. Wendell is starting to see some of the plans and some of the seeds that we planted 5, 6, and 10, 15 years ago come to fruition, and it's cool to see that stuff grow out of the ground. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, and I just wanted to thank staff. I get to be excited when I ride by and I see curb and gutter at Hollybrook Park, or I see movement on things, and 9 times out of 10, that was included in a budget process, and staff had worked on it for at least a year before it happened, and in most cases, 2 to 3 years. So it's a busy summer. I know everyone is about to head off in a lot of different directions before fall, but wanted to thank staff one more time for their hard work this past year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
It's exciting to have an idea and budget it and make plans and then watch it get finished and watch citizens use it. It's very exciting. Commissioner Lutz?
No comments tonight, Mayor.
Commissioner Eatman?
Mayor, just want to thank you quickly for your Pride Month proclamation. I think that sometimes, especially for those of us that are impacted the least, it's easy to forget how far our country's come in a really short period of time on when it comes to accepting people for who they are, who they love. And I think I'm glad to be on this board where we've taken some tangible steps to make sure that folks know that Wendell's a place where everybody's welcome and everybody's going to be treated fairly, and we're going to do our part to ensure that. And then it's also just, a proclamation, a resolution. Saying a nice thing is also, I think, the most important part. So hope everybody feels like Wendell's a place that they're welcome. I certainly am glad to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you for the submission. We all need to be kind to one another. I've said that up here before. Commissioner,
I want to echo Commissioner Eatman's comments. The deputy clerk asked earlier if she had a correct flag to fly up there when the mayor took a picture. And I don't want to speak for our publicist or the mayor, but if you guys stick around, there might be a photo opportunity too. Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Commissioner Deloach?
Lots of cool stuff, and, you know, it's hard to follow all the great things, so I won't speak just to speak, but just pay attention to all the great things that are happening. I tend to go out of my way when I ride around town, and my wife wonders where I'm going, and I just tell her that, you know, I'm out surveying what's happening, and it's cool to see. And lots of great feedback this past week, this past month. So I want to thank this board and staff. We appreciate all that everybody's doing, do their part. So thank you.
All right, thank you. A few quick reminders. The Wendell Fireworks Show, now it's an annual event. This is our second one. It's going to be Tuesday, July 2nd at the Wendell Community Park. There'll be fireworks, music, multiple food trucks. We're encouraging you to bring blankets and chairs and activities and things for your family to do, but no coolers, pets, or personal fireworks, including sparklers. So that's a little reminder for that, so we can keep it fun and safe for everyone. The Wendell Police Department is hosting its first ever Stars, Stripes, and Syrup event on Monday, July 1st at 9 a.m. They're going to be serving breakfast to veterans and their families at Wendell Fire Station 3, located at 6021 Taylor Road. The Wendell American Legion Post 148 is going to be giving a presentation thanking veterans for their service, while Feeding America serves pancakes, sausage, bacon, and refreshments to each vet and their family. We want to thank the veterans for their service, and we would love to serve them breakfast. So please bring some of your family and come and have breakfast that morning. Quick reminder, the next Meet on Main is before our next meeting, Friday, July 21st. It's the last one until September. It's just too hot. Food trucks, live music, kid area, bring a chair and join us. And again, it's the last one until September 20th, so it's Friday, June 21st. And we have a motion to go in closed session, I believe.
Madam Mayor, I move the board go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143, 318, 11A5.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.